Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the
Recording in progress.
Oh, okay. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the regular meeting of the Swanton Village Board of Trustees for Monday, March 13th, 2023. It says 22 on here.
That's 22.
It's 23, right? We have a call the meeting to order. We have agenda reviews next. I'm going to upfront this, the agenda. We're supposed to swear in the officials, but I'm the only one that needs to be sworn in tonight, so that's going to change that next item on our list. Adam has already been sworn in, Diane's been sworn in, so I'll be the only one that has to be sworn in this evening. Other than that, the agenda stands as it is, unless I hear any contrary. Anybody want any revisions to the agenda this evening? Okay, not. Next item of business, not business, but please stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. So the first item on the agenda this evening is to swear me in, and I think Diane is going to do that, seeing as how she's already. This is, every year we have to go through a rehearsal for this. We forget over the year how it's done.
Okay, so Neil, if I can have you read this paragraph along with that, raise your right hand.
Okay.
And
I, Neil Spear, do solemnly swear that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont, well, that's hard to say, and that I will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution of government thereof, so help me God, under the pains and penalties of perjury, dated this 13th day of March 2023. And my oath of office for village president, I, Neil Spear, do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of village president for 1 year for the state of Vermont, and that I will therein do equal right and justice to all persons, to the best of my judgment and ability, according to the law, so help me God, under the pains and penalties of perjury. So,
congratulations.
thank you.
Speech.
Yeah, speech. You'll get it. You'll get it.
We'll get it.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're looking for a speech. That was my chance. I wasn't here. I wasn't able to be, well, I was able to be here, but for the informational meeting on the 28th. But I'd like to thank Chris for doing a good job filling in for me. I did watch the meeting this afternoon and critiqued it, but he did a great job. And I'd like to thank our former village manager for giving me a new title. Since I was on the beach when I was during the meeting, he calls me a son on the beach. So I thank him for that, and thank Bill and for taking over. And we've got a good start on the year, and I think it's going to be great for the Swanton community. And also at this time, I'd like to thank the voters for re-electing me and our officers, and for approving the budgets for this year. And we'll do our diligence to do the best for our community. So thanks again. Next item on the agenda is to appoint a treasurer for the village of Swanton for 2023 and swear them in. So,
Mr. President, I'd like to nominate Diane Day for treasurer of the village. She's been doing a wonderful job, and I think she would be great to continue.
I'll second the motion.
so we have a motion and a second to appoint Diane Day is village treasurer. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the motion carried. And might also add, after the vote, we're missing Adam Paxman this evening. He did get reelected, but he has business in another town, so he apologizes for not being here tonight. So, that being said, Diane. Oh.
Other side?
So you want to raise your right hand and say this similar thing?
Yes. I, Diane Day, do solemnly swear that I will be true and faithful to the state of Vermont, and that I will not directly or indirectly do any act or thing injurious to the Constitution or government thereof. So help me God, under pains and penalties of perjury. I also do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of village treasurer for a one-year term for the state of Vermont, and will therein do equal right and justice to all persons to the best of my judgment and ability, according to law. So help me God, under the pains and penalties of perjury.
All right, well, congratulations. Trustees have to sign that, Diane?
You will, actually.
I will.
Yeah.
Okay, next, moving right along, next item on the agenda, we need a motion for the Swanton Village Board of Trustees to adopt Robert's Rules of Procedures for the rules of procedure for village trustees for the upcoming year through March of 2024. So,
I'll make that appropriate motion.
okay, the motion has been made and
And I'll second.
seconded to approve Robert's Rules for Procedure for the coming year. Any discussion on that? They changed that from Robert's Rules of Order to procedures. Some technicality. Anyway, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried. Item number 7, we have the official voting results that I will read to you this evening, as tallied by our JP. Official voting returns for the annual Swanton Village meeting budget vote, March 7th, 2023. Ballot accountability, the number of voters on checklist, 1,604. Number of ballots counted, including absentees, 291. Number of absentee ballots counted, 67. I, Diane Day, Swanton Village Clerk, hereby certify that the results of the budget vote by Australian ballot at the annual Swanton Village meeting held in the village complex in the county of Franklin and state of Vermont on the 7th day of March AD 2023 were as follows. Article number 2, General Fund, $138,985. Yes votes were 251, no votes 39, and undervote, which is a blank vote, for total ballots counted 291. Article number 3 for the Highway Fund, budget was $575,035. 264 yes votes, 27 no votes, no undervotes, so a total of 291. Article number 6, 4, sorry, I'll get it. Article number 4, the fire department budget, $87,861, yes votes, 266, no votes, 24, 1 undervote, for a total of 291 votes. Article number 5, the police department budget, $852,990. Yes votes were 213, no votes 76, 2 undervotes for a total of 291 votes. Article number 6, surplus police funds for amount of $61,200. Total yes votes 201, no votes 89, spoiled or overvotes none, 1 undervote, for a total of 291. Article number 7, surplus general funds $11,900. Yes votes 224, no votes 65, undervotes 2 for a total of 291. Article number 8, surplus fire funds, $10,250. Yes votes 248, no votes 43, no undervotes, in total of 291. And the election results, that was all the budget, of course. For the annual Swanton Village meeting of election of officers, March 7th, 2023. Same numbers of voters. Voters on a checklist, 1,604. Total number of ballots counted, 291. Number of absentee ballots counted, 67. I, Diane Day, Swanton Village Clerk, hereby certify that the results of the election of officers by Australian ballot at the annual Swanton Village meeting held in the Swanton Village Complex in the County of Franklin and State of Vermont on the 7th day of March, AD 2023, were as follows. Village President for 1-year term, Neil Spear, 262 votes. Write-ins were 9, spoiled votes 1, and undervotes 19. That includes Mickey Mouse, Donald Duck, whatever. Anyways, for a total of 291. Village Clerk for 1 year, Diane Day, 271 votes. Write-ins 1, undervote 19, for a total of 291 votes. Collector of delinquent taxes for 1 year, Betty Cheney, 277 votes. Write-ins were 2, undervotes 12, for a total of 291 votes. Swanton Village Trustee for 3 years, Adam Paxman, 266 votes. Write-ins 5, undervotes 20, for a total of 291 votes. And those are the tallies for the vote. So, next item on our agenda. Anybody have any questions about the vote numbers? I don't think so. Next item on the agenda, approve and accept the minutes from Monday, February 13th, 2023 meeting, and the minutes from the informational meeting on Tuesday, February 28th, 2013.
So moved.
What's your pleasure? Approve. So the motion's been made to approve the minutes, and the motion is seconded. All those, any discussion? No questions?
They're good.
Huh?
Concise?
You're good? Okay. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried unanimously. Item number 9, approve and accept the village warrants through Thursday, March 9th, 2023. What's your pleasure on the warrants?
I move also that they be approved. And I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve and accept the village warrants. Any discussion on the warrants? Adam's not here to ask the question, he usually asks the questions. But if there's no questions, all those in favor of the motion to approve and accept the village warrants, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion is carried. Next item on our agenda, we have Jason Starr here and his teammate from the wastewater plant, and we have asked him to bring us an update on the situation over at the wastewater plant. So Jason, you've got the floor, in case for a few minutes.
Okay, thank you. Let's say good evening. I'm Jason Starr. I'm the chief operator at our wastewater facility. I work there with a coworker, Dylan. He's the assistant chief operator. I've been there 4 years now, I believe. Recently, our plant was the grading got changed from a grade 3 down to a 2. This happened because there was a test that we no longer do, and the grading system is based off a point system, and with not doing or having to do these tests in-house anymore, it changed the grading. So I ended up passing my grade 2 exam, so that left me in charge of our plant. Dylan is gone and passed his grade 1 exam. He's working on passing his grade 2, and then that way we'll be covered in case something happens to me. We have somebody else with a license that can cover the plant. And then, let's see, so on the PowerPoint slides, I have a couple of improvements we've done. These are last year's improvements. So one of the big things for last year was at Bell's Pump Station. There was no on-site backup generator. So when we lost power, we'd have to come all the way over to the complex, hook onto a backup generator, tow it across town, plug it in, get it started, manually switch the power, and usually by the time that happened, the power's back on. So we decided it'd be better to have an on-site generator, so that way when we did lose power, we didn't have to run around. Usually we'd have to come in from our house. I live in Sheldon, so I'm 20 minutes away. So by the time I'd get here, the power would be back on. So we figured that would be a good cost savings with that, and just easier on us for calls. We've also, last year, our renewal permit, it was coming due this year. So we started doing it last year. We finished it up, submitted that to the state. Now the state has to go through, review it, approve it, issue us our new renewal form, or discharge permit form. So we're waiting on that. Let's see, what else do we do? We installed with Bell's Pump Station also. We were having troubles with our pumps over there plugging. Disposable wipes aren't disposable. So last January, February, it was a weekly job to go over there, pull the pumps, pull out the rag balls from the flushable wipes, plugging it. So I'd ordered a chopper pump. So that pump has blades underneath. So when those rags get drawn up in, it cuts them into smaller pieces, and sends it down the line. I've recently purchased a second pump for over there. We should be getting it in a couple months. So that way we'll have 2, hopefully eliminate that problem. So when we pull the pumps, we'd have to have line crew come in. So it'd be me and Dylan, or me and Todd Jones, and then 2 linemen would have to come in with a digger truck, pull it up.
Yeah.
So you're looking at 4 people on a weekend, so a lot of overtime charges for a 20-minute, half-hour job. So with these pumps, that eliminates that, so now we don't have to be called in on the weekends, and it'll save us money in the long run.
Jason, can I ask you a question on that?
Yep.
Now, there's, last year we showed some video of when they pulled this stuff out of the pumps. So now you have the grinder pump,
Yep,
and now it chops it up,
yep.
and it gets sent to the lagoons.
So it'll get sent from that pump station, because everything from Bell's goes across town to Foundry Street.
Okay.
We have a grinder there, a Muffin Monster grinder. So any wipes that come in past Bell's goes through that. It's essentially a grinder. So those smaller pieces that came from Bell's will go to Foundry. They'll get ground up even more, and then off to the lagoons. Hopefully by then they're tinier, a lot tinier, so.
But they will not decompose though.
I can't remember how long it was like 5 to 10 years before those actually break down and decompose. So for 5 years, they're sitting in the bottom of the lagoon or floating around, so, yeah, those are not a big fan of them.
So the moral of the story, don't throw disposable wipes down the toilet, put them in the garbage. They can get sent to the landfill, because it buggers up our lagoon systems, and eventually we're gonna have to dredge them. And
Yeah.
dredging the lagoons, Bill, is what? We did some estimates on that, a couple million?
Yeah, Reg is getting ahead of himself. That's the last slide, but yes, we're gonna talk about the impact of the sludge in the lagoons and the volume of the sludge.
Sorry.
Yep.
Sorry, Jason.
There's a couple other things. We had a couple aerators, go down. We fixed those. We have like a store-bought, I call them aerator there. It's a package, it's all pre-built. We get them, put them together, so the aerators sit out in the lagoons. It helps move the water, plus it aerates, so the bugs that eat the microorganisms, or the bugs that break down the wastewater, they need air to breathe and breed and break down. So we have 15 aerators, I believe, out there, and essentially it's a prop on a motor. We had one of the store-bought ones break down on us, so it was, oh shoot, how much was it? $1,500 to rebuild it, which ended up being like 2 bearings and a couple other parts. So we decided that was a little too much for the budget, so we ended up replacing the bearings ourselves. I think we paid $80 for the bearings, tore it apart, figured out how to rebuild it, put the new bearings in. The raft it was on, they're good for the motor, but if you try working on them, they sink. So we've come up with our own design for these floats. So we built a new float, stuck that new motor and the shaft that we fixed on that. We can work off those out on the lagoons. So we kept our fingers crossed, plugged it in, and it's still running today, so we saved ourselves, $1,400.
Yeah.
So, that was one of the things we're doing. That was pretty much some of the stuff we did for last year. We can, go on to this year, what we've done. So present, we, let's see, we purchased a tractor for the plant. So we dewater our sludge for our land application. It goes into our storage barn. It piles up, comes out of an auger, out of a chute, and just piles up. So we have to contact Public Works and ask them to come down and move the pile as needed. And those guys come down either within hours, or in the summer when they're busy, it might be a couple days. So we decided if we can move it ourselves, it'd be a lot more effective. So we decided to put a tractor in the budget. So we did that, and then we started talking and said, well, if we have a tractor, we can clean out our parking lot. Save Public Works guys, they've been out plowing for 14, 16 hours. They don't wanna come down there after being up that long to open up our parking lot, and so we said, well, what the heck, we had enough money budgeted, we found a pusher blade used. So we purchased that, so now those guys can come down, just do a pass down and back of our driveway, and then go on. We can also use the tractor for other things. We had money left over for a brush hog, so we can do maintenance around the lagoons, because the woods around the lagoons are encroaching in. the town comes down with their brush hog twice a year just to push all that growth back, but sometimes we could use it 3 or 4 times, but those guys are busy also, so we said, well, with the tractor, we'll get a brush hog, we'll clean that up, keep everything pushed back, and, Public Works had a finish mower that they had for an implement that they didn't use, so they were nice enough, they gave us that, so now we can use that for, finish mowing around the lagoons, so eat up less time of theirs, for them to come down and mow around there, so I think it'll be a good help, good asset to have down there. Those pumps I was talking about, those get delivered, we can use the tractor to unload them, we can bring the pumps over to Foundry Street with the tractor, so I think it'll just be helpful for us and not having to rely on everybody else, especially when they're busy doing other jobs or on a water break or whatnot.
Gives you a chance to get outside.
Yes, yeah, get away from paperwork.
Yeah.
We also, this spring, out in our storage barn, that auger I was talking about, there was aluminum legs that it was anchored to the floor. So when Public Works came down to move the pile, they couldn't get all of it. So, I had the conversation with Scott Mueller, a year or 2 ago. He said, well, it'd be nice to get those legs out of there so you could clean all that up. And he said, well, I said, what if we swung those legs back and anchored them to the wall? He goes, well, why don't we just anchor them to the I-beams up in the ceiling? So this spring, that's what we did. We had all the steel cable from some of the aerators on hand. So we just had to order the clamps and the binders. So we cranked to the lift, went up to the ceiling, mounted those, ran them down, and mounted it, so now we can clean all that up in one shot rather than leave a little pile there and have to work around it. Recently, me and Dylan, actually we've been working on this for a couple of years, cleaning the trees and brush around the lagoons. So I don't know if you can really see, but there's a fence in there in those trees. And they're actual trees, 6-inch trees growing up through the fence that goes around our lagoons to keep people out and whatnot. So we've started cutting those down. We've actually been doing it for a couple of years, going out, cutting them. And this was from last week. Me and Dylan went out and cut probably 100 yards of trees. So we're just topping them off at the fence level. And then we're gonna borrow line crew's chipper and go through and just chip that. Most of it's just garbage, popple, stuff like that. And we're just gonna blast it out in the woods. And then, so these are future improvements that we're working on. So, this is Foundry Street. This is the workhorse of the whole wastewater system. If this goes down, nothing goes to the lagoons. So, there's old Cornell pumps that are down in the basement. The middle one has a new motor. I think that motor is 6-8 years old. So I budgeted this year to start replacing those. They're not cheap. So I figured if I do 2 a year, because we have those 3 and then a backup. So I just recently purchased 2 of them or have them on order. So my plan is when they come in this summer, when the flows are down, we'll change out the 2 oldest ones, pump 1 and 3. And then next year we'll do 2 and the spare. That way we don't have to ever worry about those motors for a good long time, or those pumps and the motors. And then I can't really see them, but there's valves back there. There's I think 8 or 10 valves. Those are original. They're starting to leak, they're starting to show their age. So my plan is next year, start replacing a couple at a time. Just hate to go down there someday and have to shut them off and not work. There's actually two in there that don't work. And then the other picture is, the building itself, the roof's leaking. It's a flat roof with a rubber membrane, and it's punky in some spots. So, we're working with a local contractor, and we're gonna put a new roof on it this summer, and then take care of that issue. I think we're gonna end up putting a single pitch roof on, going away from the flat roof. But like I said, that'll be this summer. And then we have our upgrade, in the future plans. Some of the equipment is 27 years old plus, so that's hopefully coming down the road. It'll be nice to get some newer technology in there.
And so the trustees know it's, you're all well aware, we're not quite to the 30% complete design. As soon as we are, A&E will come in and do a presentation for us, but we should have a potential cost for bond very soon. We're thinking in the range of $5 million, minus any sludge, which we'll talk about next slide, but that's what we're looking at.
So, these are future ones, sludge removal for the lagoons. So those lagoons have never been dredged. And we had a state inspection last summer, and that was one of the questions and issues they brought up was, when was the lagoons dredged last? And have they been dredged? So it was like nope, they have not been. We do lagoon depths every October, and we do have graphs on those. We keep track of the depths of them. So we will be handing that off to A&E, perhaps. The cost, it's gonna be, I think, a little high, but.
Yeah, so there's an outside entity that works with A&E on determining how much more sludge can go in there before it's a true pressure point. So there's no appetite, by the way, for removing sludge gradually, dewatering on site and land apping it like the sludge, like the byproduct that goes through the system. It's not gonna be allowed. So an example is Williamstown, 1.5 million for lagoons, much less size-wise, probably half the size of what we have. So we're looking in the $2 million range when we get there, but stand by on the experts' report. The state is aware, the state is asking, trying to determine what the impact is.
Yep, and with the upgrade, our chemical usage is gonna go down, which means our chemical costs will go down, which will be nice. Newer stuff is more energy efficient, so we'll be lowering our energy costs there. And our phosphorus discharge to the lake. We're meeting the stuff now, but we have to put a lot of chemical in to get it to meet, or to be below that standard. So with the new upgrades, we won't have to do that. The new process will take care of that. And I think that's it for me.
Are the lagoons lined?
They are clay lined.
Just clay?
Yep, clay, so, I guess I'd say it's an older technology that they used to use. Clay, now it's all, like a rubber frame they put underneath. And then,
When they dredge them, do you de-water and then go in and take the hard stuff out, or do they do it with the liquid in there?
I believe you have to, I know you have to de-water and go in with equipment,
Yeah.
take it out. I'm not sure.
They can actually do it both ways.
Yeah, they can. I'm not sure which way they do. We'd have to pull like our aerators and all of our other stuff. Plus, I'm not sure how it would work with our like inlet and pipe in from from the forest main from Foundry, or we can take sludge from our clarifiers where it settles and pump it back in. I'm not sure if those pipes sit up or sit down. I believe they sit up. So I would think you'd wanna de-water and kind of find that stuff before you.
How hazardous is the sludge? Is that a part of the cost because it's gotta be handled specially and go a special place? Or?
They would have to de-water it, and then I'm assuming they'd send it to the landfill.
Just a regular land?
Yep.
It's special requirements for hauling, and there's very few landfills that have the capability of receiving sludge.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's a biohazard, right?
Yep.
yeah. How about security down there? We're not getting vandalism problems or anything, are we, or?
No, we have, since I've been down there, we haven't had any issues. We have lighting around the building, we have the fence and locked gates, and now with the new badge readers, the doors are locked until we badge in or out. But we haven't had any vandalism.
You got a good place to store your tractor? I know you used to keep the truck there. But
Yep, actually, me and Dylan repainted the garage and we went through. We had a lot of stuff in there that we didn't need or didn't use. We gave Public Works some stuff. And we've kind of cleaned out the clutter and we can fit the tractor and the truck in there together, so.
Oh,
Yeah, we did a little bit of rearranging, so, and housekeeping, so everything fits inside and we don't have to leave anything outside.
so the building's pretty secure, that does, other than the roof on the pump station, we're in good shape?
Yep, Foundry's good, that place is like a little fortress, except for the roof, but that is, it's weird, cause it's got the membrane roof and like wood underneath it, but the inside of it's concrete, the ceiling's concrete, so when it does leak, it's like the conduits that go through the ceiling from the power pole, that the water will leak down that, so. Once that's fixed, it should be all good for another 40, 50 years, hopefully.
No, it sounds like you're doing a great job.
Trying.
Yeah.
So you saw and it's really not a joke, it says catfish in parentheses up there. We're researching it, because A&E does say that with all the stuff that they have turning the material, catfish will help remove the sludge. I wouldn't want to catch, cook, and eat them, but it could be a viable alternative to help mitigate what we're trying to do.
We'll do fish fry next summer.
Yeah.
We're gonna have some catfish.
So the synopsis is it's gonna be about a $5 million bond. We think we'll continue to look for alternatives and grant funding and other relief in that area. And that's minus, that does not include the sludge removal. So we're hopefully the state does not come back and say it has to go now, because that'll be a significant financial impact for us.
So do we know at this point if the new design that they're working on is gonna be able to include the kidneys? Are we gonna be able to incorporate that into a new design, or are we gonna have to change the whole system?
You mean the lagoons?
Yeah.
No, they love the lagoons. The lagoons are great. They like those.
And if a request for sewage from the Highgate expansion of the airport and whatever else, we have capacity.
We do have water and sewer capacity at this time, yes.
Okay,
It's gonna be so long.
good. Thanks.
Great.
You're welcome.
Any
Thank
more
you, guys.
questions for
Appreciate it.
Jason?
Good job.
Thanks for coming in and enlightening us. Okay,
Yeah, this has worked out great. I mean, it's nice to hear from you guys. You're sort of the ghosts, the unheard of guys, but boy, are you essential. Yeah.
okay, good deal. Next item, appoint a representative to the Northwest Communications Union District Legislative Body.
Having
That's still going on, Reg? I thought that was
The
dissolved.
CUD?
Yeah, Elizabeth was appointed the last couple of years, so I think it's an every year thing, you have to appoint a representative.
So that's these next two, with Elizabeth Nance no longer working in this area. I have some thoughts. I think there's somebody interested. It could be a gentleman seated to my left.
I don't want the CUD.
Oh, okay.
You could put me on the CUD, but I don't want to be there. You can do what you want, boss.
Do we have, I guess it's an open discussion. I didn't know if there's people that are interested in serving in
Well,
this.
if Reg wants to take that on, that's.
First of all, what's it entail?
Yeah, I don't know what it entails, being on the CUD, so I can ask Elizabeth tomorrow.
I think
And,
very little at this point.
Yeah, because I don't think they're very productive.
well, I thought that was dissolved, lost funding or whatever.
Not that I'm
Enosburg
aware
was.
of, but let me find out from Elizabeth.
Yeah, can we table that one?
Yeah.
We'll research and follow up. And if we have to, if I can take that role if I have to, and, because the next one I know that Reg wants very badly.
Really?
I said it with a straight face. It's gotta be true.
Yeah, okay.
He does.
Okay, so we'll table appointing a representative to the CUD and move on
I see.
to appointing a representative to the Northwest Regional Planning Commission Board, and Transportation Advisory Committee.
This is the transportation one that you've been on.
No, this is different. This is the one that Elizabeth was on at regional planning.
Now, you had a regional, local transportation one then.
It was the energy committee that,
Yeah,
another topic.
different.
Yeah,
So at least in the interim, Reg and I spoke, he is I'll let him speak for himself, but at least for now, once we get the grants administrator, project coordinator up, maybe that's somebody who would be an ideal fit for this role, but we don't have that yet. So
I
Reg
agree.
is interested in filling this role.
I think this one might be important to the county.
I think with everything that we have going on
Yeah.
with grant opportunities, yeah, it's important for regional planning in this
I
attack.
believe that.
Yeah,
So you're basically taking Elizabeth's place on the board, on the commission.
yeah,
She's just,
So it'll be you and I on the
Yeah.
commission. Okay, that sounds good.
Well, I would make that motion that Reg Bellevue be appointed to the Northwest Regional Planning Commission Board of Transportation.
Unless you wanna get back on.
No, sir.
if that's a motion, I will second.
Okay, Chris made the motion, you seconded?
I did.
To appoint Reg to the Northwest Regional Planning Commission Board. And his job on that board, if he takes Elizabeth's place, will be the Transportation Advisory Committee. Because I'm on the Project Plan Review Committee,
I understand.
so. Okay, all those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay, congratulations, Reg,
thank you.
you're the appointee. Item number 13, approve the following coin drops. MBU, Future Farmers of America Chapter, is looking for May 6th, 2023, rain date of May 20th, 2023. Swanton Village Fire Auxiliary is looking for June 17th or the 24th for rain date. And Star Hose is looking for, let me see, that would be September 10th, with a rain date of September 19th.
17.
17th, yeah. You gotta watch me.
I'm gonna make a motion that we approve all three.
And I would second.
Okay, the motion has been made and seconded to approve all three coin drop requests. If Adam was here, we'd have some discussion, but you fellows don't have any discussion on that?
No, just the same approvals, that they have insurance, that's one of the requirements.
Yes.
It's right out here in front. There's a bypass route for people that want to. And from my standpoint, the fact that a reasonably high percentage of of the donations come from people who don't live in Swanton, which is, I think, a good thing. And they usually get several $100.
Okay, that being said, all those in favor of the coin drop, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, okay, that motion's carried. Item number 14, our village manager update.
So the Hotel Riv, I think you guys have all heard about that. Asbestos abatement's completed. We actually did a walkthrough today with, just to verify that the work was done properly. It has been. So here's the timeline. The week of the 20th, our public works have to go in and remove a list of exclusions from the contract. So things like TV, paint cans, there's a list of stuff that Dean and his crew will go in and get out. The week of March 27th, the demolition contractor will be on site to expand the fencing, get his stuff ready to go. He'll give us a week's notice, and at some point, week to be determined in April, will be the tear down day, demo day. So,
Excuse me, not to interrupt, but didn't you say there was a date in there to meet with the neighbors?
there will be. So once we have that date, so, because I don't know if it's week 1, 2, 3, or 4 yet.
Okay, well,
We'll get a 1 week notice. We're gonna meet with all the neighbors, and to include Gary Rice, he's the landlord next door. We're really gonna have to move the fencing way out and probably encroach in the road. We'll have two police officers on contract on game day when it gets torn down, and then neighbors will all have plenty of notice. I've spoken with all of the neighbors at this point and/or landlords that are immediately next door. And they're all on the same page at this point. Everybody's gonna be pretty pleased to see it go.
But who owns the fence? Do we?
No, it's part of the contract, so there is more to this. Once they take it down and haul it away, remember the tier 1 studies. Now there will be this supplemental investigation that we spoke about before, so as soon as there's a cellar hole and weather permits, they'll do the identified borings to determine other soil implications. And at some point, we'll have to remediate those to some degree. And at some point following that, we'll have a clean slate for either the front third, second third, whatever it might be. It's probably gonna look like a cap and grade, no foundation allowed in the future. Then we'll do some guidelines and post it for interest, and we'll sell it to somebody who wants to develop that.
What's that zone for? Can it be, it just has to be residential or?
mixed use, is it? You know,
I think it's residential like commercial, I think. I don't have my book with me, but I'll get it.
So we're getting there. That's the update. I'm gonna pass down, this is just an FYI, so Reg in particular is taking the lead on this, but Swanton Agricultural Lunch and Learn, it's with a bunch of different folks. Reg, I know you would want to explain it further.
Sure. So the Swanton Energy Committee, as you know, that the past few years, we've done some programs with lawn equipment, some ride and drive events, that kind of stuff. And I think we spoke at a trustees meeting that we had one of the most highly attended ride and drive events along with the electric lawn equipment event. So this happens to be for farmers, so also growers. So like our local nurseries, that kind of stuff, along with our local farmers. So we're not gonna try to just keep it within the Swanton area, because we're gonna expand it to Grand Isle County as well if farmers want to attend. So it's just what things that are out there. There's a lot of grants right now for trying to help farmers with biodiesel kind of things, planting crops that you can produce biodiesel with. So on the committee is myself, Andy LaRocque is also on the Energy Committee, Marlena from Belante from Regional Planning, and Jen Yando is also on it from the DRB and from the Energy Committee. And there's one other individual, and he's a contractor, and I don't remember his name. He's attended a couple of meetings.
So if you're in the area that day and you want to stop in, we'd love to have you. Swanton Outdoor Market is confirmed again on the Village Green. I think if you saw it on the Swanton community page for Facebook, third Sunday of each month, a little new revitalized interest. I think we're gonna see food trucks and much more, so that should be a pretty cool event. 11:30 to 1, 5 times a year. Or, no, I'm sorry. I forget the hours, but every third Sunday of each month. Just to follow up the Scott Mueller
5
Scholarship.
months or 6? 6 months?
5. I had to do, you know,
That's what I was doing in my head before.
5. Yep. Quick follow-up, Scott Mueller Scholarship. So they have, I believe, 3 final candidates that meet the criteria from MVU High School, age 18, graduating seniors. We'll be in the process of identifying a date to likely early March to set up interviews. Trustee Leach, I know you had expressed interest. Can we lock you in on that when we have the date? Okay. So it looks like the panel will be Reg, of course, Dan Chevalier, Richard Barwin as a conduit. He's a teacher at Missisquoi who kind of organizes the program, good conduit for the kids. Myself, and we're not sure who else at this point. Did you say you wanted in on that?
Sure.
Okay.
And you have 3 candidates, you said?
3 candidates.
Good.
Yep, it's good. Should be a good, good program. And according to him, I don't know who they are. He said they're all great students with a real interest. So we have sat down with Dan. Dan's got the plan in place. He's got the evaluations in place. He's got everything ready to go for this person to hit the ground running.
Good.
So it's not gonna be somebody just weed whacking and mowing. It's gonna be somebody that's gonna learn a little bit about engineering and hydropower and things like that, so.
I think it would be nice if we could have an open house sometime this summer up there.
Absolutely.
And we haven't done that for years. We had,
Been a while.
people got hot dogs and they got a chance to look around, and we had the bucket and people got a bucket. The kids could get a bucket ride up high.
Yep.
And, I mean, that's a real jewel. I mean, the guys keep it so clean and neat. People don't realize, you know, what we got up there. And we didn't have a big turnout before, but if we advertise this right and talk about, you know, green power and all of the good things that inhibits, I bet we'd get a good turnout.
I agree.
A fall weekend when, you know, the leaves are turning, that's a really nice time to be up there.
Yeah, I think the plan moving forward, we talked about it with the directors of each department, open houses at every location. In particular, it's less sexy, I get it, but wastewater, if we're gonna go to bond, to really have people go down and take a look at that. There's a few MVU courses that wanna go to wastewater. We host 4 MVU classes in the next 2 weeks that go to hydro, as well as 4 classes that start next week that'll be here in this room with PD and fire. So I think we got at least 10 class trips lined up with Missisquoi at this point.
Yeah, next week we have 2 classes up at MVU for career days.
Yep.
To discuss with fire, police, and border
Do they-
patrol
do they-
and corrections.
Will they get a sense of the kind of pay that these people get? I mean, it's pretty impressive. The kids, as an incentive to think of alternatives to,
Yeah, I think that's one
Food
of,
and
they're
burgers.
not shy. I think that's one of the first things that they'll look at in the trades. And, you know, not all of them are interested in going to lineman school, but we all know what that pays and what the demand is out there.
exactly,
That's
I
one of
don't
the
think
things.
people understand
Right.
these opportunities.
Yep. This is really a question for all of you, because I had not seen it come back, and it may be actually for Diane. You all supported the Declaration of Inclusion in a joint venture with the town. Do we have a final signed product so that we can share that on our website, on our social media? We do not yet.
Not yet. Last time I talked to Brian, there were some select board members that were out of state. I'm just waiting for everybody to get back. So don't you have a joint meeting coming up?
We do, so this is why I asked the question. It doesn't sound like everybody signed one. We now have new select board members.
Yeah.
Do we have to
So-
do a do-over? It would be a quick discussion, but
I think
I
we
don't
should have a
believe
No.
motion
if the
signed.
board has already approved it.
just
doesn't
gotta
matter who's on it.
track them down for
Yeah.
signatures.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
Can I
That
can I
would
just,
work.
I want to refresh my memory. we endorsed equality and meritocracy. In other words, we go by merit and not by the, well, what people look like or where they come from or whatever else. It's, we endorse the most qualified people with no, yeah, with no roadblocks to anybody.
Yeah, I would say
Well, we
the best way I could say it, in a comprehensive review, both governance structures unanimously supported the language as proposed by the Vermont League of Cities and Towns.
Okay, which was that lean, now, going for the most qualified, best people with no roadblocks for anyone.
So I think, Diane, if we can just, can you follow up? Because it sounds like all we have to do is get the signature of the originals, because we ought, because right now, it was just recently on the news, there's well over 120 communities who have signed off, and I don't think we're being tracked as one.
No, I saw that.
So
Yeah.
we just need to check that box and get that moving.
Write it down.
Last Wednesday, we posted the position that was approved for the grant specialist project coordinator. We're gonna let that run through at least Monday, March 20th, before we start to do interviews. Well before that, we'll reach out for anybody that has an interest in sitting in on those interviews as well. So that won't, it's not gonna occur until likely April,
That's okay.
thereabouts.
Have there been some interest?
There's actually been a lot of phone calls and a lot of queries. There's only been one applicant so far. But it's only been a handful of business days, so.
Yeah, 6 days.
Very encouraged by the caliber of people that are reaching out. It doesn't mean they're committed, but they're reaching out to ask appropriate questions about what we have going on here.
Okay.
That's it in the village manager update. I do have a couple of quick things under the next one, Mr. President, if we're ready to move on.
We are item number 15.
The first,
Necessary businesses.
yep, the first one that is necessary, Reg has a letter for all of you to sign, and Reg, you want to explain what we're looking for here?
So basically, there's a grant out there, the Communities Facilities Direct Loan and Grant from USDA Rural Development. And yeah, I mean, it can be up to, is a certain percentage depending on your medium household income, but it's to help with the potential public safety facility. So I can read the letter, and then you folks approve it, you can sign it. The Village of Swanton Board of Trustees support the concept, design, and build of a public safety facility on village-owned land. The existing complex is nearly 50 years old and houses multiple other departments which are key to the day-to-day operations of the village. The construction of a new public safety facility will allow us to optimize the current building and offer the opportunity in the new facility for our police and fire departments to develop and grow as our community needs grow. The Village of Swanton Municipal Complex played a key role during the pandemic as our local testing and injection site. Having the ability to build a separate public safety building will offer us so much more opportunities with regards to training, community outreach, education, and preparedness and planning. Also, our proximity to the US and Canadian border would make this facility a prime location for a command center for local emergency personnel and law enforcement agencies. Just thank you for your consideration, and then sign the Village Board of Trustees.
This comes from the US Senate. It's simply a placeholder that has to be in place by the 16th of this month, or we wouldn't even be considered for funding. And it's far from a done deal, even a penny, but it's the very first step in the process.
Sure. Sign.
The Council on Rural Development has really pushed to have us participate in the past. And this is a good time.
Yep.
So do we need a?
Diane, do we need a motion on this?
Should be.
Yeah,
We,
so we're looking for a motion to sign this request for funding for a proposed public safety facility on village property.
No reason to repeat you, so I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. We've already discussed it. Any, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried unanimously, so we will sign it. And we've got, what, 3 days left? You said it's gonna be in by the 16th?
I think so, yeah.
Correct,
Short
yes.
runway.
Yeah, I noticed that.
But when you find these things, it's like, oh, okay.
Well, this is why we have the extra pair of eyes.
Better than 3 days after.
Correct.
We've seen that before too.
And the last thing I have for other necessary business is a discussion for a replacement, a possible replacement for Reg Bellabo, who was a longtime board member on NEPA. And now that he's no longer in that role, we don't get a vote per se for a board member, but we're looking for whether or not the trustees support us forwarding Lynn Paradis's name for consideration.
I would support that.
I as well.
She's been
And
over
is-
the
is she
meetings right
willing?
along,
She's willing.
Oh,
and she's
And
certainly.
by all
qualified.
means.
Reg can elaborate, it doesn't mean that she's going to get a seat on the board, because there's other entities that could step forward or other people.
I'll just add a little color to it. So the way it works is that basically that if this Vermont members, part of VEPSA, will come in and say, well, we're gonna nominate so-and-so to be on the board of NEPA. And then we present that to the NEPA Board of Directors, and then they'll vote on the recommendations from the state of Vermont. So not necessarily because I was a member on NEPA from Swanton, doesn't necessarily guarantee Lynn a position, but we would nominate Lynn on behalf of Swanton, and then the VEPSA board, well, if nobody else is interested, they would nominate Lynn, and then we present it to,
Lynn is willing to take that
Yeah.
responsibility.
yeah. I mean, she's been involved in the utility for what, 28 years,
Yeah,
something like
I
that,
was gonna say,
so,
nobody more qualified.
She knows everybody in that system,
pretty much, yeah.
so. Okay. So we'll have a motion for that too? Or just a point, a recommendation?
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, I don't think we need a motion,
yeah, just recommendation.
yeah.
that's all I have.
Okay, so we're in agreement that Lynn will be a good candidate for NEPA.
Absolutely.
Okay, good. And that's all you got. So I'm assuming we need a, motion to go into executive session. Any other necessary, but Sean, do you wanna say something?
Yes, public comment, so, just kind of a heads up that this isn't a formal request at this point, but, I know that the revitalization committee downtown, they've been doing a lot of work on the bridge, the flowers, things like that, beautification of downtown. I come to my attention from Sarah Boys that they're kind of short of a space to keep their equipment through the summer, their rakes, their shovels, things like that. And I would donate a, an 8x8, 8x10, whatever size shed that they need for that, one of those Amish shed type things for that. The site we kind of looked at was potentially right there next to it, and again, not a formal request, just kind of a heads up. We'll get a better location, just exacts to give you something as an option. We kind of looked at the site right across from VFW, between VFW and the river, next to the parking lot, but over the railing. Take a little bit of leveling in there, but maybe put a small shed in there. Again, that really helps support the bridge, because that's kind of an area that they use quite a bit, and close to the edge of the village there as well, no power or anything like that. I'll, discuss this with them a little bit more to see if they want to put in a formal request for that site. If the village had another alternative site that they thought that was better, by all means, but I know that somewhere in that little downtown area, kind of there, close to the bridge, and it works well and close to the park type thing, so just more of a heads up than anything else on that. Switching gears, did check on, I was here at the last meeting, and I brought up the landlord liens for rentals. And I did check on, because I was told all my properties would have liens put on them, or all the outstanding electric bills would have liens on them. And Ronald Reagan said, trust but verify. So I went and checked on that, and it seems as though one of them does not. Some do, but I do have one that does not have a collections motion of any sort, and it's not in collections at any point. So I'd kind of like to have that looked into, and maybe look as an audit for what other ones are not.
So when you
collections
talked
at this
about
point.
that, Sean, that happened just prior to COVID, and we stopped. We weren't here, so we weren't submitting any liens to our collection agency. And since then, we've had discussions that the village was collecting more money than that agency was. So we were debating whether or not we should continue with that agency. So at this point, none of them have been handed over to collections since probably 2020.
And so I will say that all the employees that work here, the electric department, have been nothing but helpful through the years, not just in the short term, but in the long term. In the last decade, I can't say enough about how much they've tried to help me in the past, between calling me if there's a water leak somewhere and all of a sudden there's a spike in a water bill at a tenant, so there's probably a toilet that's running or something like that. I've gotten a lot of calls through the years from them, which, you know, has been going above and beyond to help that. And I realize that their hands are tied in many cases on what they can and can't do. I've had electric bills before with tenants that have been shut off at the $500–600 range. They come in with a $20 bill and a payment plan. They get it turned back on, and then it runs for another 3–4 months before it gets shut off. Again, those are state requirements, things that they fall under yet. And now I'm stuck with a $700 or $800 lien at that point on top of it. And unfortunately for us, we're caught. Do we pay the lien right off? Because it's growing at 12% interest every day. Or do we let them try to collect it, which again, they do try to do. It really helps if they want to get another apartment or have a house here in town, because then, of course, in order to get it turned back in their name, but what they do is just put it in their boyfriend's name, girlfriend's name, daughter's name. They put it in somebody else's name, they're still living there. So that's the problem we run into in many cases. So, but you know, not all are in liens at this point. So just want to make sure that that was clarified, that we are still on the hook for that in many cases, you know, so it is a torn piece. But the next part, I guess it's a little more, I guess I'm looking for more guidance from the board here. I reviewed the minutes of last week's, or 2 weeks ago's meeting, and is it common to go in after and add additional statements to the meeting, or the minutes of it, and things that were never said here at the actual meeting, to add that in, add numbers, add statements supporting of?
Is that from the annual meeting? I'm sorry.
It was from the joint meeting that we had.
So the minutes aren't a transcript by any means. It's a summary, it's my interpretation of the meeting. It's a brief summary of what was said. They're meant to not be a transcript, so there isn't discussion on, well, I said this, I said that, I meant this, I meant that. It's just my interpretation done in a summary.
Because in this case, it said, Swanton Village was the 13th municipality to do so. This is talking about adding on the electric liens. Nothing was ever said about Swanton Village being the 13th municipality to do so in the meeting. And this helps keep electric liens stable. Said in the previous years, we'd asked the board to write off approximately 40,000 unpaid electric bills. Never said.
I thought Lynn said that.
No, she said you guys collected $40,000 last year through VRAP. I said that this was then absorbed by the taxpayers for rate increases as necessary. Ms. Paradis feels this practice is working because in recent years, she has only been asked to write off approximately $7,000. Again, none of that was said at the meeting at all. So I just want to make sure that if the minutes were approved here at the beginning of the meeting, if that's considered accurate, I guess I'm not quite sure what is. And I guess if it's somebody's opinion that they want to put on here, or add their opinions, or add numbers and figures that were never brought up at the meeting at all, I guess I'm a little concerned with that, because this
Are
becomes,
the figures accurate?
I don't know if the figures are accurate or not.
Did you
I'm not sure.
compare
What's
the
the
notes
problem?
to the tape?
I did,
And that,
yeah.
I could have sworn Lynn said she asked the board to write off in previous years $30,000 to $40,000. Since we went to the lien
Tens of
process,
thousands
we haven't been
statement.
doing that. What's that?
Tens of thousands was the statement at the time.
We used to ask for 30,000 to 40,000.
This is not a conspiracy. Did you just see the thing go restarting? My computer just blew up while you were speaking, but we're still running the camera.
Yeah. I'm just, a little concerned, I guess, that I don't assume that'd be a common practice, so I guess maybe that could be something we could look into to make sure that it's in fact accurate, because it is kept for future reference if needed. And I can provide that here as well.
So Sean, what is the proposal, well, first, couple questions, because we didn't get a chance to talk about this last time.
Sure.
Do you avail yourselves to the recommended form and language so that the tenants that you have, when they come in, have to sign where they're mandated to allow you to get those bills?
Yeah, it doesn't matter if I do or not, because I'm still on the hook for it either way. I can't shut it off.
Right, but you'll become aware more quickly. I don't know what that gives you for viable options, but at least you're aware and you're not surprised at the end of the year. Or do you generally, you're kind of aware anyway?
Yeah, I'm aware because usually when I get shorted for several months rent, maybe 4, 5, 6, 8 months rent, I might already be $5,000-$6,000 in the hole by the time I get them out. That's generally the tenant that doesn't pay the bill. As I said, I've had one situation where I did give somebody back their security deposit, and after I handed them back their security deposit, we're in a catch-22 because the state of Vermont only allows me 14 days to either refund their security deposit or give them notification as to why I'm not refunding that security deposit. And in that process, they don't even have their electric bill, their final electric bill per se, even potentially maybe even in hand, or if it is in hand, they still have another, 30 days-ish or whatever the duration is.
The bill's still generated and the amount is there. If you ask them to come in and pay it and give you a paid receipt, we'd have that in 2 or 3 days.
But if you had authorization from your tenant in those cases, before cutting the check back, then you would have the ability, and you're customer service up front. If Sean called in that case, you would be able to
Yeah, we do it
release
all
to
the
him
time.
up to the minute what they owe.
Yeah, they could definitely do that.
Okay.
But it doesn't alter my ability to control it, right? I still don't have the ability, there's nothing I can do about it, because if they don't pay it, then, I've had one time where I did make that mistake. I didn't check, and I check, from time to time, and again, they've been nothing but helpful through the years.
So Sean,
But their hands are
what
tied.
can we do, the village or the trustees, do to help your situation? What's the solution?
We can remove that ability for us to be lien for tenants' electric bills at that point. We're not on the hook, but my electric co-op doesn't do it. Tree Mountain Power doesn't do it. Wellington Electric. There's a lot of municipalities around here that don't do it. Some do, and it's generally the smaller ones. But the fact that we're on the hook for somebody else's electric bill after the fact it actually, in most cases, is more insult to injury than anything, because we're already gonna get shorted in many cases, 4, 5, 6 months. So it feels like the courts are against us, and then it feels like the town is against us, And so we're just getting slapped from all angles. And I've heard statements that, well, why don't you include the electric? Well, the second you include the electric, you jack the rent at that point, well, then all the lights are left on all the time, and they plug in electric heaters. So they no longer use the furnace, and now they're plugging electric heater, they're bringing a bigger draw on the system as well, which will end up costing me. So it's, there's.
You anticipated my next question.
Yeah, it sounds great, to go include the electric, but then once that happens, then all of a sudden now you're kind of, you're on the hook for that. And there are things you can be put in place, like put a cap on it, hey, you're anything over $100, you have to pay, but now you have to take every single month's electric bill, and it just becomes a lot of work versus going, let's put this in your name, you're responsible for it. But unfortunately, we are. Again, I'm not criticizing the board, you all were, some of you have been around here longer than when that charter was put in place. But at the same time, I'm just asking the board to reconsider that and potentially put it up for removal, because, again, we're put on the hook for somebody else's bill. It's just, again, insult to injury at the end of the day. So.
In my opinion, I support the lien. I think it's very unfair for somebody who doesn't pay their bills to have me help pay for it. That's my own personal opinion, not as a trustee.
I sympathize with what you're saying, Sean, I really do. But we're a nonprofit electric. We're not like Green Mountain Power, which has deep pockets and has all kinds of, there's one owner with lots of money. If someone doesn't pay, somebody else, one of the ratepayers, will have to pay it somehow. And generally, the stuff that Diane writes off, these are people that have died and time has passed and there's no way to even trace down who they can be. People know how I feel about lawyers, but there's gotta be a way that as a renter or the owner of the property, to be able to legally put enough pressure on a renter that they have to pay their bill. I mean, there's so many things that people are able to get, I don't want to say bad push of words, but able to get away with because there's no legal consequence.
I agree.
You know, so as a nonprofit and a relatively small electric company, I mean, we have like 3,400 meters, 3,600 meters. That sounds like a lot, but it's not. I mean, Green Mountain Power has 80% of the meters of the state of Vermont. They got deep pockets. And it's owned by one single family. Can't even buy stock as a company. But if our policy says that there's 1 meter for each address, we're looking at new meters. Maybe there's something collectively we can do legally and functionally to make this a little bit better. We can look at it.
There are some state
I don't think we can
agencies,
ask, I
like
don't think
Section
we
8.
can ask our ratepayers to pay any more than they're already paying, you know, for services.
Section 8 does require their clients to pay their utility bills or they lose their funding. So we are starting to see a little bit more of that, which is helping keep the tenants accountable and pay. Not everyone rents to Section 8, but at least that's in place, so hopefully it goes a little bit further, but at least we're seeing some change there.
Well, I think we're certainly sympathetic to what you're telling us, and we've heard it. I don't know that we have an instant solution, but we certainly will look at our piece of it. But I don't think we can just write off. Somebody needs to pay that bill.
I agree.
And it's because of the fact that we're a nonprofit, you know, the amount that we can fudge is very, very limited. Any comments?
How much before this was enacted, how much was it costing us in unpaid bills, do you remember?
We have always had the figure, it was between $30,000 and $40,000, and I thought Lynn said that at the informational hearing. We would go before the board yearly and ask to write off $30,000 to $40,000. It varied, but it was in that price range.
Before we put this stipulation on?
2009, they updated the charter to go with liens on unpaid utilities, which affects not just landlords, it's homeowners as well. It's not just tenants and landlords, it's everybody, it's businesses and homeowners. Because
Now it's down, it's a fraction of the 40,000.
It's 6,000 or 8,000 a year.
but this year was 7,100, I believe.
I don't have the exact number.
So that made it.
And we're not asking every year, we'll go sometimes 2 years.
And is
So-
that all tenants, or is that the total number of all?
Yeah.
Total. And sometimes, you know,
Homeowners,
you have estates that go on for 4 or 5 years with nobody.
So of that
Nobody
percentage,
owning
how
anything.
much of it is on landlords? Well, we probably don't know that piece of it, right? Because there's a percentage there that would be on that demographic.
Right.
We're the only demographic of that, let's call it 40,000, which now seems to be about 7. How much of that is a landlord demographic?
I don't know.
You know, I don't have
I
that
think,
number.
I think we can find out.
We'll take some
I
research,
think
you
we
know,
can-
it's not a
I think
number
we
we're
can
gonna have
look
tonight.
into it, find out.
It's just,
So that's what I'm wondering, if it's this new stipulation, new 2009 that we put on, how much of a difference it's making on
it's making it-
landlords as opposed to a homeowner.
Right, so what I see is there's way more work on the landlord. A lot more required with renting to someone now. But I can tally up and see who's paying, because this comes from, a lot of the tenants are paying, a lot of the landlords are paying. Title companies, financial institutions are paying, so I can find that
You have 3,
information
4
out.
different groups that are paying you.
So Diane, are you able to do some research and put it together for us?
Yeah, yeah. I can
Dating
tally that
probably, for comparison purposes, we would have to go back before 2009, or is that even possible? Is that too much to ask?
up. Well,
It's a long time.
so I think we have the information on what we asked to write off prior to 2009, but don't you want to see
Yeah, but do we
from
have a
2009
breakdown?
on, who's paid the
Sure.
majority of,
Let's see who's being impacted the most.
Yeah,
yeah.
that's where I'm going.
Yeah, and it's just, it's a tough piece because I've paid a lot of them off, 2/3 of them I've paid off, and I have, maybe 1,000 or 2 that are left now in total liens. Because I don't wanna pay that 12%, right? I'm being charged 12%.
Where's the 12%?
Whenever you put a lien on a property, it grows at 12%. Any lien in the state of Vermont grows at 12%.
We don't charge 12%, do we?
There is
1%
some
per
interest being
month?
charged, but it's not 12%.
1% per month, 12% for any lien that's put on a property. That's the state requirement.
Is that a town charge?
That's any lien that's put on a property grows at 12%.
Well, I know if you buy a property on a tax lien,
Yeah.
and when the offender buys the property back, they pay a 12%.
It's any lien, it's kind of a real estate thing, any lien that's put on a property grows at 12%.
Is it a fee for every year or a fee
Yeah.
for one occurrence?
Every year,
No, it's per year.
per month, really, 1%.
Yeah,
It's 1% per month, but we're not necessarily charging our landlords that.
That's interesting.
A lot of times if it's a final account and it's done, it's not accumulating interest anymore, so.
We're torn because we don't want it to grow, right? We want to clean
Yeah.
it. We don't want to also be part of the big delinquent process for the town. We pay them off a lot of times. And,
Sure.
but at the same time, then they're off the hook, which is a super lose. It's up to me now. So I've taken it off the shoulders of Swanton and now it's on my shoulders to go after them for whatever that balance is at that point. And so now it's landed on me, which I have the same recourse as you do. I don't have any more power. Now I have to go, and I have to go through the court process, which is slow and painful. And in many cases, it was, again, insult to injury. It was usually something much larger. We usually had a settlement, got done, and then now I'm back in again, have to go back, make another motion to reevaluate the settlement, that kind of thing, so.
Well, on our end, for the trustees, let us do our due diligence. We'll go back, we'll do the research. We'll identify the impacts and at least be able to have a more in-depth conversation about what any alternatives would be and any consideration for the trustees.
Right.
However, of what value will that be? It'll just be information. I doubt there's very much we could do about it.
There might not be, but in this case,
At least we'll know.
there's a request and there's a lot here that I need to be educated on, so it'll be a good education for me as well.
Yeah.
Can we go back to your first discussion? So, the shed, close the loop, please, and I will on my end. Dean Ryan, Public Works, myself, Hank Lambert had a great discussion. And we had a solution here on our current property for a storage location that Hank signed off on. So I wanna make sure we're not duplicating efforts.
Which we may very well be,
Okay.
so this is something I
All right.
discussed with Sarah Boise last
Yeah,
month,
so
it was, if
Hank
there's
was,
something fresh.
Hank said yes, I can't remember the size, but we were gonna build it right in our lean-to, and everybody was happy, so just to, if you wanna loop back,
That's a problem solved thing. I
I'll do the
I
same.
really like that downtown area
Yeah.
because it was down close to the bridge, it was close
Right.
to the park, and it was
Yep.
kind of central to where they were looking, but I.
When we get the rib torn down, we can put it over there.
Good.
Well, that might be next year or so, but no, I'm going there. Anyway, yeah, we'll check, see what kind of impact this has made on who, and get back to on that, Bill says.
And it's tough, right? They've got a municipality that they're running a business just like we are. We're both running a business together. And it's just, it's a painful piece of the process where we get pounded on it, so,
Yeah.
that's all.
Okay, good, thank you. Anybody else have any other necessary business?
No, sir.
No, tonight.
Okay, I guess it's about time to go into executive session.
Yes, sir.
I'll entertain a motion to that effect.
I make the motion, we go into executive session for discuss legal matters and real estate.
I have to second that.
Motion's been made and seconded to go into executive session to discuss legal matters and real estate. All those in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion's carried unanimously. We are in executive session.